Welcome, everybody, to week 4 of the NFL. It is going faster than we can expect. I know it's longer to wait for it to start. Week 4 already. Oh, my goodness. I am Drew, and I am running solo tonight. It seems like everybody is coming with the itis. So I will be running solo, going over game by game, who to start, who to sit, my opinions as to who's going to have a good week, who's going to be a bad week, waiver wires, couple injuries to go over. Maybe we'll go over some over-unders and things like that for each week. I'll give you my my picks for the week for each game, and we'll kind of roll from there. So far, we're starting tonight, Thursday night. We have the Jaguars at Cincinnati. This is going to be one of those games where Cincinnati's going to take Jacksonville behind the shed. It's going to be absolutely ugly. There's really nobody on Jacksonville I would actually like to start in this week. You might get some points where Chark and maybe Marvin Jones Jr., but those might be the only two. I mean, Cincinnati's just going to throw – I mean, they might put up 35 points in this week. That Burrow-Jamar Chase duo is just going to be unstoppable in this week. I do like Joe Mixon as well this week. He may go for over 100 yards and a touchdown. Jamar Chase. There's no T. Higgins tonight. So Tyler Boyd might get to you some fantasy points as well. But expect Jamar Chase, Burrow, and Mixon. You can actually use those in a triple stack for DFS. Jacksonville's not going to be able to stop them tonight. Lawrence, he's going to give you his 2 interceptions. He's on pace to break Peyton Manning's interception record of 28 for a season. Jacksonville's just looking awful. They're all defense can't stop anybody. They're always playing from behind, so you do get those garbage points. So DJ Chark, and like I said, Marvin Jones Jr. may give you some points. Chenault hasn't really showed up yet. They got to figure out a different game plan. It almost seems like with Trevor Lawrence, they're trying to air it out every single play, and he's getting just absolutely buried by defenses. They need to do like dump offs to Chenault, or do some kind of extension to the defense or to the run game, bubble screens or something, because what they're doing isn't working. Expect Cincinnati to roll in this game. 28, 35 points easily. Going into the Sunday 1:00 games, we will start with Tennessee at New York. This is almost a bye week for Tennessee. They actually need it because both of their stud receivers are injured. Julio Jones is a late addition to that. He didn't practice today. I mean, he's 32 years old, so it might be just one of those veteran days off. But he did show up on the injury report today, so watch out for that when the reports come out at 11, 12 o'clock on Sunday. This could be a good game for Chester Rogers if both those receivers do not start. But I think this is going to be a game where they're just going to run the ball probably 30, 35 times. Derrick Henry's just going to have a monster game, and that's all they need. Tannehill will probably throw for 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, maybe give you some rushing yards, maybe a rushing score. They're playing the Jets. I mean, it's almost going to be a bye week. They don't have to do much in order to win this game. Jets, I'm not liking anybody on this team. If you have any other running backs, you know it's frustrating. They don't have a number 1 yet. Corey Davis, I mean, he's been banged up. Crowder, I think, should start this week. Zach Wilson, I mean, he's got a cannon, but he looks like he's seeing ghosts, just like Darnold did when he was playing for him. So I don't like any of the Jets this week. easy game for Tennessee. You're going to roll with Derrick Henry. I have Julio Jones on one of my teams, so I'm going to be watching the injury reports Sunday morning. So put him in one of your, flex spots, I guess, because he may not play. He was held out of practice today. Next game, we have Kansas City and Philadelphia. Expect Kansas City to roll on this game. After back-to-back losses, expect them to try to get right against Philadelphia. They still have a potent offense. You're going to start everybody you can. Edwards-Helaire came back last week with 100 yards. They just don't have a number 2 receiver yet. Pringle and McCole Hardman, they're kind of fighting for those second spots. You're going to roll with Kelsey. You're going to roll with Hill. You're going to roll with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and of course Mahomes. Those are going to be your staples for that game. Philadelphia, they got whooped against Dallas last week. Plus, it's all a quicker game because of the Monday night. Jalen Hurts is going to give you some decent points. He's going to give you some rushing yards. He might get you 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I do like Devontae Smith in this game. Kansas City cannot defend the pass. And Philadelphia is going to be playing from behind, so expect some air yards with them. Michael Sanders is not really giving you much this year. Expect more of the same. I'm not a fan of Philadelphia whatsoever, but Hurts and Devontae Smith would be the only 2 that I would start for that week. Kansas City, you're going to roll with whoever you have because they're just going to throw up a whole bunch of points. Expect Kansas City to roll. Next game, we have Carolina visiting Dallas. Dallas is a train that nobody can stop right now, and their defense is starting to gel. They're turning the ball over. Diggs, I think he has 3 consecutive weeks with an interception. I like Dallas in this game. Carolina lost Christian McCaffrey last week. Hubbard came in. He got 30% of the run share after McCaffrey went out. But expect him to actually give you some decent receiving receptions and some yards and some rushing. Dallas defense is still not where it should be. They're still reeling a little bit. And Carolina still has DJ Moore. Robbie Anderson probably hasn't given you many points this year in fantasy. This could be one of those games where they're going to have to air it out because they're going to be behind Dallas. Dallas just can't be stopped. They have too many weapons. Zeke is come back to form. So he's going to give you 100 yards, maybe a touchdown. Carolina's defense has done very well in these 3 games. But they're not going to be able to stop Dallas. I would say, 28-17 Dallas, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, their 2 tight ends, Jarwin, I believe Schmidt is the other guy. They both had touchdowns last week. So Dallas has too many weapons not to win this game. Hubbard's going to have you some points. DJ Moore is going to give you his receptions, his yards. Sam Darnold should be throwing the rock all over the place. So it could be one of those sneaky high-scoring games, and you're going to get some decent fantasy value from both teams this week. But I do like Dallas to roll in this one. Next week, or the next game, I have New York Giants and the New Orleans Saints. I don't know what to think of this game. This is New Orleans' first game back in New Orleans since the flood. So they could have that emotional attachment and, light up some points this week. I think the only one on New Orleans really worth starting this week is going to be Kamara, of course. You don't know what you're going to get out of Winston yet. He had a very good week 1. Then the last 2 weeks, he hasn't really done as well. And that's kind of what you expect with James Winston. boom or bust. But I definitely would roll with Kamara. For the Giants, I ain't got none for you. Saquon, he's not going to get you anything against that State's defense. All their receivers are all banged up. Slayton, Shepard, Daniel Jones, he might give you some rushing yards. I don't see very much excitement in this game. Maybe 10-7, 17-10 type game. Not going to be a lot of offense or defense. Or there's going to be a lot of defense, just not a lot of offense. So Kamara, I would start with New Orleans. Giants, I would look for better options if you have any of those players to start this week. Next game, we have Cleveland at Minnesota. This is going to be one of those games that it's going to be no defense. These offenses are just going to go back and forth. It'll come down to turnovers, who can stop them, inside the red line, into the red zone for field goals. Again, check your injury report for Dalvin Cook. He's still dealing with his leg. Madison came in last week and did very well for him in relief. So expect him to just watch the injury reports for him to play. If Cook is in there, Minnesota's going to – they could squeak this one out. I kind of like Cleveland in this game, but it's going to be a very closely contested game. Both offenses are going to roll. I actually like Hunt a little bit better than Chubb this week because of his reception skills. Then you have your receivers with Minnesota. You have Justin Jefferson and Thielen. You're going to start. Cousins, he'll probably give you his normal 275, 2 touchdowns, maybe a pick or two. That's usually what he does. Baker Mayfield should put up some decent stats this week. OBJ is looking good. He looked good last week. I believe he had 5 receptions for like 70 yards. So he's coming back to form. Can Minnesota stop the rushing attack from Cleveland? I don't know, but this might be one of those shootout games. Like I said, I do like Kareem Hunt this week better than Chubb because I think they're going to be lighting it up with passing on both teams. All right, let's see. Next game. I don't even really want to talk about it because it's just going to be a snoozer. Detroit and Chicago. Maybe you might start DeAndre Swift if you don't have any other options. You always think of the Bears as having great defenses and things like that. They're not a team that's going to scare you with their offense. So I don't like this game. Allen Robinson, he hasn't really been given the chance to do what he normally does. Mooney hasn't showed up. I guess Montgomery might give you some decent yards if you don't have any other other options. Detroit, I mean, Cephas was one of the number 1 waiver wires last week, and he put up a dud against Baltimore. You just don't know what you're going to get week to week with Detroit, any of their players. DeAndre Swift, he'll give you rushing yards and receiving yards. So if there's a person in this game I would start would be him. Not much else. Maybe Montgomery as a flex option. I guess if you have Allen Robinson, you're going to start him just for the fact that he could get hot in one game. They are playing Detroit, whose defense isn't all that great, but I don't like anybody on this until that offense or until Nagy gets fired or they get a new offense coordinator or whatever happens with Chicago. They're just not going to perform or give you many fantasy points. Next game, we have Houston at Buffalo. Everybody probably saw what Buffalo did to Washington last week. They just absolutely whooped their butt. If you have anybody on the Buffalo's offense, you're going to start them. I actually like Zach Moss in this game a lot because there's going to be a lot of garbage time. And in garbage time last week, he had 2 touchdowns, 1 receiving, 1 rushing. Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders had, I believe, combined 16 receptions for 192 yards. So those guys, they're going to be great. There's no way that's going to be able to stop this Buffalo offense. Look for Josh Allen to probably throw up 300. I mean, he might even get another 100 yards rushing. He would probably be my QB1 this week. Maybe 3 touchdowns, maybe 1 rushing. Houston, I don't like anybody on this team. Brandon Cooks will give you a couple receptions, maybe 100 yards. I mean, Buffalo put up 28 points in the first half against Washington. So expect a repeat performance from Buffalo. They're just going to absolutely annihilate Houston in this game. So Josh Allen might be my number 1 this week, quarterback. And like I said, I do like Zach Moss in a DFS play. He's going to be doing some garbage time. Diggs, you're going to start. Beasley, Sanders. Even Knox is getting touchdowns on this offense. So at the tight end position. So he actually might even be a good DFS this week as well. So expect Buffalo to roll. Then we got Indy and Miami. It's another one of those games you just don't know what to expect. Both teams are awful. Jonathan Taylor will be probably the one player on Indianapolis I do like. Wentz is playing injured. He's going to give you 250, maybe a touchdown or 2. Pascal might be the one receiver, or Pittman Jr. They might get a touchdown this week. But Miami has the best 2 corners, so they're hard to throw against. But Miami just doesn't have any kind of offense. I don't expect much in this game. Gaskins, he hasn't really done much for you. Devontae Parker hasn't really done much for you. Gesicki as a tight end hasn't done much for you. This is going to be one of those snoozer games again. It might be defense versus defense and, who can kick the most field goals. So we just got a tweet that Hyde is out for Jacksonville, so don't get him out of your lineups. Let's see. We have the next game is Washington at Atlanta. Both of these teams are looking to get right. These might be the 2 worst defenses in the league, based on yardage given up. Atlanta should be putting up some points. Cordell Patterson is actually their number 1 running back. He might be the best talent that they have outside of Ridley. Mike Davis hasn't really done much for you. Ryan, he's been a dud. Matt Ryan, their offense or their defense is just absolutely horrible. So this might be, it might be a shootout type game. I don't know. Washington's got talent on their offense, but can they put it together? Their defensive line has been struggling. I mean, with 4 number 1 picks on that line, they just can't get to the quarterback like they should. They need to change the scheme or something in this game. Because Matt Ryan is just an absolute statue back there. Hopefully Washington can, get some kind of defensive plan together for this team. Heineke, he might be a good DFS this week. He may put up 3 bills, 2 touchdowns. He also gives you a rushing yards. So I actually like him this week. McLaurin, he's going to give you his receptions, maybe 8 or 9 receptions, 99 or 100 yards, maybe a touchdown or 2. Logan Thomas, he's going to have a get-right game this week. He was averaging 8 or 9 receptions last week. I expect that performance this week. Maybe 70 yards, 8 receptions, and a touchdown. Since I'm in the Baltimore, D.C. area, we did get a little inside. Gibson did not practice today. He's been dealing with a shoulder, and now he has a new shin injury for running backs that is not good. So that's primarily where they get tackled, so he can re-aggravate that relatively quickly. So if Gibson is out, McKissick could be one of those DFS plays. He does like to receive the ball a lot. He'll get you some yards that way. Heineke could do the check down as a number 2 option behind McLaurin. So I actually like Washington in this game, just for the mere fact that Atlanta's offense is not firing on all cylinders. Pitts, I mean, we were all excited about drafting him, and he really hasn't showed up yet. I think in 3 games, he's got like 140 yards. One of those games having 70 receiving. He does not have any touchdowns yet. So it could be a get-right game for him. Hopefully Calvin Ridley comes back to form. I mean, he's still getting you 5 or 6 receptions, 60, 70 yards, maybe a touchdown. But it's just that offensive line is struggling. They can't protect anybody. So look up for these bubble screens and draws and all that stuff. That's why Cordell Patterson has been so good, because he can be as a running back or as a receiver. He's a good flex option this week as well. So I expect Washington. I mean, it's going to be almost a pick'em game. I kind of like Washington in this game just for the better defense factor. It could be one of those sneaky shootout type games where none of the defense show up and they just go up and down the field on each other. Now we get to the 4:00 games. Very good game in the West. Seattle is visiting San Francisco. Seattle is 1-2. San Francisco, I don't know what's going on with Seattle. They seem to not be able to stop anybody. San Francisco is starting to get healthy a little bit. They found Ayuk now. Deebo Samuels, he's going to have an absolutely monster game this week. Running backs, for San Francisco, I think Elijah Mitchell comes back. You got Sermon. I don't like any of the running backs in this game because we don't know who the clear number 1 is. I do like the passing game for San Francisco with Samuel and Ayuk finally being able to show what they can do. Seattle just isn't that scary team that they used to be. Russell Wilson is still going to get some decent passing yards. Let's see. Packers put up 30 points on 49ers, so they're not as scary of a defense as they used to be. Metcalf is going to do okay. Lockett will give you your points. So you're going to still roll with those 3. Carson, I wouldn't expect a huge game this week against the 49ers. He still may give you a touchdown, but don't expect too much from him with that San Francisco defensive line. I don't like any of the running backs from San Francisco until they have a clear number 1. This might be one of those passing games for San Francisco where Deebo Samuel's just going to go off. And also Kittle, he'll probably give you some yards as well and some receptions. Probably one of my favorite games this week is Arizona and Los Angeles Rams. Both teams are 3-0, so we're going to have one less team undefeated. Arizona, we thought we were going to be the cellar dwellers in that division, but they've superseded the Seattle Seahawks in this one. They got so much talent on that offense. Kyler Murray's playing out of his mind. Hopkins, Rondale Moore, he's a boomer bust. Christian Kirk is good. Chase Edmonds, he's been okay, I guess. So they have a lot of weapons on that offensive line. Their defensive line is shelling out sack after sack, interceptions. Their defense is actually scoring a lot of points in fantasy, but they're not going to be able to stop LA. LA is probably the clear number 1 Super Bowl in the NFC Super Bowl team. What options don't they have? Check Darrell Henderson's availability in this week. He's playing with some rib injuries. So, Sony Michel did okay last week for you if you started him. Cooper Kupp he's just unbelievable. But there really hasn't been a Robert Woods sighting, which is kind of unusual. Seems like Higbee and Cooper Kupp are the ones that they're going to. Deshaun Jackson over the top, and Robert Woods is just that forgotten receiver, which doesn't make sense to me. He was outstanding last year. Look for Stafford 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, maybe a pick. to Buda Baker, but Arizona can hang with them. It's going to be an interesting game. It's one of my favorite games of the week. I'm pulling for Arizona, but I don't think they're gonna win this one. I think LA rolls probably by a touchdown at least. Next, we have Pittsburgh at Green Bay. I don't know what to think of Pittsburgh anymore. They're starting to look like the old Cincinnati Bengals. Roethlisberger, they need to do something with that situation. He can't even run laterally anymore without falling down. Najee Harris, we were excited to draft him. He's not doing as much. I mean, he's getting 91% of the offense or the snaps during on offense, but this offensive line just can't block. They're not giving Ben any kind of room. I guess if you have Schuster or I think Deontay Johnson's still injured, but Pittsburgh's defense is still great, and that's all they have going for them. But Aaron Rodgers should shred this team. Expect like 21-10, maybe Green Bay. You're going to start Jones. You're going to start Devontae Adams. I wouldn't expect Aaron Rodgers to have that great of a game. That defense is still good in Pittsburgh. But you're going to start those studs anyways. So expect Green Bay to roll 21-10, 28-17, something like that. Pittsburgh is just an absolute mess. Expect them to finish dead last in the division. Cincinnati is on the rise. So, and they've already lost to Cincinnati last week. So next, my team, Baltimore, is going to Denver. If anybody remembers the last time that Baltimore went to Denver, the Hail Mary to get them into the championship game, that was incredible. So Denver, they played the three worst teams the last 3 weeks. We don't know exactly who they are. All the receivers are hurt. Patrick is the only one that's not hurt. Judy is still out. Hamler towards ACL. Fan is still a good tight end option. He might be a DFS option because Baltimore hasn't been able to really stop the pass. Bridgewater, he's going to give you some decent points. We just don't know what Denver is yet. They still don't have a clear number one. Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams, they're splitting the load. It might be one of those feel kind of games for that. Baltimore, they get Bateman back. I'm excited. But Tyson Williams was a non-factor last week. He had like 5 carries. That's kind of disappointing. I think he was one of the number one drops last week, or this week, I should say. The backfield for Baltimore, they're running 3 guys, Williams, Devontae Freeman, and also Murray. So I don't like any of the backfield guys. Lamar Jackson, he's still going to give you some rushing yards, and he's dealing with a back this week. He was out of practice today. But with Bateman now on the field, it's going to spread him out. I'd expect more of a passing game in this game if Hollywood Brown can actually catch a ball. That offense is still going to look lethal. Even without the running game, they're still putting up 100, 200 yards every game in rushing, just for the mere fact their quarterback is so good. But it could be a letdown game for Baltimore, depending on how Lamar Jackson does. Like I said, he's dealing with some back issues. He had a flare-up, so we'll see with that. I still like Baltimore in this game. It took a 66-yard record-hitting field goal last week against Detroit, which they should have rolled. They had 3 touchdowns that they should have had, but failed to convert. Hollywood Brown dropped 2. I think Jackson had one where they brought it back for a holding call. So expect Baltimore to win this one because we don't know what Denver's going to be. Their defense is still really good. I guess Patrick is probably the one receiver you're going to start. He'll get his receptions. Fant will get some decent yards. It's always a tough game in Denver, but I like Baltimore in this game. And the game that everybody is talking about, Tom Brady going back to New England. this might be my second favorite game of the week. Tampa Bay is just going to absolutely blow them out of the water. Expect touchdowns from Gronk, Antonio Brown. They're not going to. If they're up 50 points, they're not going to stop scoring. Tampa Bay doesn't have to run the ball. Jones isn't doing anything for you. Fournette's not doing anything for you. Bernard's actually giving you some decent receiving yards finally. But Tom Brady's going to throw it all over the yards. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes over 400, 4 touchdowns, maybe a pick or two. But New England's not going to have any kind of answer for this game whatsoever. You saw J.J. Taylor actually get some receiving because they don't believe in Damian Harris because he's got fumbleitis. So he might be one of those waiver wire guys you maybe want to pick up this week. J.J. Taylor, I wouldn't start him against Tampa Bay, but he might be a later addition to your team. The only receiver for New England I like is Jacoby Myers. The secondary for Tampa Bay is not that good. They did get Sherman signed this week to a 1-year, $2.25 million deal. So that'll help a little bit, but we're well past Sherman's prime. If Mac Jones can get him the ball, Jacoby might be the only receiver. James White went down with a hip, so he's not playing. I don't like any of the running backs in New England. Just the one receiver. Expect a blowout on Tampa. It's going to be a statement game for Tom Brady. He's going to come out and just throw all over the place. Maybe 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. I wouldn't be surprised. New England's got nothing for him. Then the Monday night game. Actually, this is kind of going to be kind of an exciting game as well. Las Vegas at the Chargers. This is going to be a good test for the Raiders. I actually like the Chargers in this game. Eckler is going to be is going to have a monster game this week. Receptions and rushing. Mike Williams is playing out of his mind. I mean, you were happy you probably got him in the 6th or 7th round in your draft, and he's playing like a true number 1. Las Vegas, we don't know what their running back is. Peyton Barber tore it up last week. I think he had 22 carries, over 100 yards, and a touchdown. So Las Vegas has talent on Waller's, he's definitely going to get his. But you got Renfro's doing okay. Brian Edwards, he's doing okay. Ruggs is doing okay. None of them is the clear number 1 other than Waller. He's going to be your number 1 option, but the receivers, everybody's getting, a couple receptions, couple yards. But the LA Chargers, you're going to go with Eckler. You're going to go with Herbert. You're also going to go with Allen, Mike Williams. Their defense is okay. I actually like the Chargers in this game. So that is it for the games. Some 2 waiver wire guys that I like. Marlon Mack is looking for a trade from Indianapolis. They agreed to part ways to be traded. He could go to San Francisco. He can go to Baltimore. He can go to Miami. He's still got some speed. I like him for the long term. So he's going to be one of those guys to look for. Another guy, we were talking about J.J. Taylor for New England. I don't like him this week because Tampa Bay is the number 1 rushing, number 1 defense against the rush. So I don't like that. And we just got a report. DJ Chark rolled his ankle. That sucks. And again, it's getting to these injuries. All these receivers, all these running backs, they're all getting these leg injuries with torn ACLs, Achilles, high ankle sprains, hamstrings. So this was the year that you needed to have depth in your league because your number 1s, they're all going down, and it's kind of sad with no preseason games and with these CBAs. These guys are just getting absolutely hurt and devastated. And these are, prime guys that are getting hurt. McCaffrey going out last week with a hamstring. And going forward with hamstrings, especially with some guy that's a guy that's twitchy like McCaffrey, that could just linger all season and really hurt his view or his value going forward. So they might have to lessen his load, and go and want those 50-50 splits with Hubbard. So it's tough. Then you got Dalvin Cook. We'll see with him and Madison. It's going to be tough. It's going forward in these weeks. So scout your waiver wires. Always look at your injury reports. Julio Jones is going to be probably the top one to see if he's going to be playing. Dalvin Cook is another one. Antonio Gibson with Washington, again, coming down with the shin. So for DFS, I like McKissick going forward. And that's pretty much going to be it for this week. So as far as, the Jacksonville and Cincinnati game, looks like it's 0-0 right now, but enjoy your week, guys. Sorry for the shortened show. I am running solo. So if you have any questions, you feel free to get me at Twitter at stream STREAM _fantasy_ on my Twitter. If you have any fantasy lineup questions, Greg, Sam, and those guys should be back next week. Kind of put on a little bit of a longer show for you guys. So again, thank you all for watching. I appreciate the time. I appreciate being on air all the time, giving you my opinions and my outlooks. That's it, guys. Have a good week. Good luck.